We gotta move you back to where you came from. Move you back. Don't look at my dirty closet. I feel like you're really close to me now. Get away. Okay. Hi. So, basically, today I was going to do a cute little review on, what's her name? God, this is probably why I couldn't do a review. But today I was actually going to do a review on Amy Lee's Set on You. It's a recently released book about a curvy fitness influencer. But my brain, for some reason, cannot for the life of me explain the plot of this book. So, I feel like we're so close. Pop you open a little bit. Okay, let's see a little bit more of me. I'm a little short. Okay, so what I figured that we would do today instead was I'm going to recommend you things, but I'm doing it based off of vibes only. I'm not going to really explain the plot. Some of these I've read really long time ago, and some of these are just, the plot is so non-existent that you're literally reading it just for vibes. So here are my book recommendations, vibes only edition. The first book that I have for you, and this is if you love vampires, okay, you want to get into a series, you miss Twilight. I read this right after I finished Twilight in middle school, and it is marked. This book is by PC and Kristen Cass. It follows this, I believe she's 17-year-old newly made vampire named Zoe Redbird. Oh my god, so you can tell that I don't remember this book. Honestly, read this for the vibes. I love the world. I loved being submerged in this almost like Hogwarts, as I don't know why I'm saying Hogwarts like I actually read Harry Potter at all, but I loved being submersed into this Hogwarts-esque like vampire school. I'm resisting saying academy. But you know, I just freaking love this book. And I only know, like in real life, I only know one other girl who actually read this series. Shout out to you, Taylor Barella. You're my girl. Love you to pieces. But we used to be obsessed over this book. We would get the books and we would talk about them. We had this weird phase where we wear cowboy boots to school because we love C.B. Ray so much. So if you just want to get into something, get into it. There's a ton of books. The novellas, amazing. The main series, it was petitioned to be like, I think only like 3 books at the time of its initial publishing. And so it kind of gets a little wonky after book 3, and then also the plot kind of gets repetitive. But you do get attached to the characters and you do have a good time. Remember how I said that I read horny books from time to time? Let me introduce to you the horniest book. Let me introduce to you Katie Robert, the queen of horny. Okay, let me talk to you about The Dragon's Bride. Okay, this book, no plot. There is a hint of plot. There is a hint of history, of like political intrigue. There is a hint of a caste system. There is a hint of a magical world once interacting with the human world. But that is not the point. The point is a human lady falling in love with a dragon with 2 dicks. That's it. Vibes only. That's all I have. I love a good vampire story. As you can see by my love of House of Night, PC Cast and Kristen Cast, and of Twilight, I love vampires. There's a new show on Netflix that I think features vampires, and I'm ready to watch it. I want to watch it today, actually, after I'm done filming this video. But, again, love vampires. This one. This is King of Battle and Blood, and this is by Scarlett St. Clair. Okay, so a thing about Scarlett St. Clair, I believe there's been some recent controversy about her and how she decides to portray her characters. Her main female lead, I believe this name Isolde, Isolde. I've actually never. Maybe I should see how you pronounce that.
Isolde.
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 Okay, Isolde is how I'm told. So this particular book follows the characters Adrian and Isolde, and so apparently how Scarlett St. Clair decides to portray Isolde in the books, she kind of comes off as plus size and of deeper skin tone, and is actually written many times that she is plus or side, like more on the plus side, and has deeper skin tone. Maybe not as dark as me, but you know, maybe a little brown, maybe a little red undertone in the brownness. But apparently in a lot of official fan art, she has been allowing artists to depict her as a thin white woman. So it kind of caused a little bit of icky feeling amongst the booktube and book talk community. So I will say that is a controversy, and I am aware of it and recommending this to you. But I will say that I really did enjoy this book, mostly for the romance and mostly for like the whole like enemies to lovers to I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I really liked it. I like how the romance was set up. I like the magic within this story, and I think it just fit well. In terms of the plot, like all of like the tension between the two kingdoms or whatever kingdom system it is, obviously don't remember, just vibes. In terms of that, I didn't really care, but I really did fall in love with a lot of the characters presented in this story, and I love all the relationships built in it. So if you're just looking for something to enjoy, just enjoy it. This so remember what I said before, like at the beginning of this video? Let me introduce to you the horniest book. Yeah, remember when I said that? It definitely wasn't The Dragon's Bride. The horniest books of all books is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. This is literally just monster porn. Like, no plot. No plot. I will say, trigger warnings. Did I write my own trigger warnings for this? I started reading again and I was like, oh. This is how I roll in terms of trigger warnings and books. Like I don't ever want to recommend something and it has like these insane trigger warnings for it. I'm also of the mind that when I give trigger warnings, I have to say them to you. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, check the trigger warnings. No, I mean, I appreciate that, but if you're going to recommend something to somebody, I think you should just like outright tell them what the triggers are. Like, what's the point of making me do all this research if you're the one who's recommending me the book? So since I'm recommending you the book, I'm going to give you the trigger warnings. So, we do have, okay, so this is what the book, what is it called? Booktriggerwarnings.com says the trigger warnings are. There's trigger warnings for threatened sexual assault, as well as, obviously, explicit sexual content. For me, that's not much of a trigger warning for people. Obviously, there's, like, monsters at play, so you're going to get a lot of like supernatural types of sexual content. On top of that, there is a couple of scenes where, what would you call it? I think I would say dubious consent. I would also say, okay, I'm just gonna explain this scene to you in the most non-triggering way possible. So, think about it this way. Think about forced orgasm and delayed orgasm. That's how I'll say it. but the way it can be done is in like a really extreme way. So if you're kind of sensitive to more BDSM styles of sexual content, I would stay away from this one, just because it does get a little intense, especially when we're introduced to the character Amon. So if you are sensitive to that sort of thing, maybe stray away from that. But if you are into that sort of thing, the vibes are immaculate on this one. Immaculate. 10 out of 10 recommend. Okay, so these last ones, I'm hesitant to say that they're just vibes because I actually really adored them when I read them. Rosie Dawn made these two books, The Roommate and The Intimacy Experiment. And in both of these books, I feel that there is like a light plot. It's very light reading, very good for summer type thing. It's romantic, but at the same time, it's like really emotionally impactful, especially when we're talking about sex and sexual relationships. I think it opens up an interesting conversation about the porn industry. I think it opens up an interesting conversation about non-consensual sex. I think it, and as well as like revenge porn. I think it also opens up this idea, these interesting ideas about like sexual shame. So I feel like this book is both light and heavy at the same time because it does make you reflect on these things. But I overall just really enjoyed it and I was there for the vibes. Like it wasn't anything like crazy deep that I had to like sit and like ruminate over. There wasn't like really heavy plot that I had to keep track of. It was light in the terms of like it being a romance, but maybe if you kind of struggle with a little bit more like real life sexual shame, this might be like a really impactful read for you to read. And it also might be a little heavy in that sense. But in terms of the vibes, in terms of the characters, I really loved it. I really love the intimacy experiment. Just watching like two people become way more vulnerable through helping other people be vulnerable was really interesting to witness. So that is that. Okay, so the thing about me is that I mostly read books that I'm like a mood reader, okay? And that's why I think the vibes are important, okay? Most of the time, I do want to read about vampires. I can't lie to you. If I could choose to read about vampires over like a fairy or like a fae or like a person, I will. So y'all should give me good like vampire vibe books that I can read. But I mean, I say that all to say is that I'm sorry that like 3 out of the 6 books that I showed you featured vampires. The next thing that I'm going to say is that most of the books that besides vampires, most of the books that I do read are, in fact, like YA fantasy or new adult fantasy. I like the ability to have, books that are, high in plot, but also kind of feature something a little bit more like sexy and tantalizing type thing. I think it kind of adds to the story a little bit for me. Just because it kind of takes sexuality and brings it to the forefront. So also, another thing to say, I'm sorry that most of these books are horny. But I think what I really also kind of want to convey with that is the fact that like the romance genre, just because it features like romance, it features people falling in love, it features people having sex or building families, it doesn't mean that there aren't rich and impactful stories that exist within them, or more than that, I think, I should scratch that. And as well as that, sometimes the books that you read, they don't have to be literary masterpieces. They literally don't. Can I tell you how many times a year I pick up Jane Austen? Like, maybe once. And then I read like 2 chapters, and then I'm like, my brain is like too overstimulated by everything. And then sometimes, and I'm in a really deep mood where I'm like, I'm gonna read like Jane Austen, and I'm gonna read like fucking all those old dead white guys that we used to read in English literature classes. But most of all, fun fact, your reads don't have to be some literary masterpiece that won a Nobel Peace Prize or cured, I don't know, cancer or something. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be that. And don't put pressure on yourself to read stuff like that. Ta-da! Thumbnail. 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 Yeah, so thank you guys for joining me in my Appa hat. If you guys like this video, go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!